Listen, the conclusion of this Travers Smith legal report into this whole affair was that the communication to you and everything around client confidentiality was badly handled, lessons to be learned there. But when it came to the decision to close your bank account, that was made on commercial reasons. Do you accept that?
No, absolutely not. I'd never accepted from day one that Travers Smith were the right firm to be independent, given that their emeritus chair has called Brexiteers racist and xenophobes. It's sort of Sir Howard Davis, the chairman, doling out jobs for the boys.
I just want to call you out on that. Mr Farage, I know our audio connection is not with us, so I appreciate there's going to be a lot of talking over each other, and I'm sorry about that. Yeah. But I just want to ask you about that, because it struck me that what you're doing there to Chris Hale, who is the emeritus chair of Travers Smith, is exactly what you accuse NatWest of doing to you, which is discrediting you based on your Brexit belief. That he's a Remainer discredits him in your eyes. Well,
exactly.
That's what you say, NatWest, so it's hypocritical.
No. I'm really sorry, but most Remainers would say we disagree with Brexiteers. They wouldn't throw terms of abuse at them. So you cannot have a firm like that and say that with the boss of it being so prejudiced. And after all, what they were investigating was prejudice against me. Now, look, the idea that they can conclude this was not solely, but mostly, predominantly, a financial decision is completely undone by the Coutts subject access request that I got back a couple of months ago, where 3 times in the report it says Mr Farage's account is commercially viable, all right? Now, they played all sorts of tricks in May of this year. They relisted me as a politically exposed person and said because of that, the cost went up. There is no doubt those accounts were closed because I did not align with the values of the bank. That's the first big problem. The second big problem. Can I just stop you there? Because
let's address it problem by problem. The fact is that the rules around politically exposed persons, PEPs, have changed. Banks do have to dig deeper into the affairs, the financial affairs of politically exposed persons. It's interesting because Parliament is actually going to have another look at the application of those rules. Particularly in a country like the UK, where it's, essentially it could be that actually it doesn't need to be as much investigation into PEPs. Surely you welcome that if Parliament does reopen that and look into the application of those rules?
Oh, look, I welcome reform of all of these things. But here's the point. At the moment, when it was decided to close my accounts, I was not, I repeat, not listed as a politically exposed person by Coutts. I'd been delisted. Indeed, the first telephone call I had with them confirmed that I wasn't a PEP. But when they realised that I might go public, they might be in trouble, they craftily relisted me in May of this year after I'd been told the accounts were closing. And this is the pattern that you see, the pattern of maladministration and dishonesty that we've seen right the way through this. And
OK, I've got a copy of the report here. I mean, it says, in their view, Coutts considered the relationship with the client to be commercially unviable because it was significantly loss-making. This disparity between income and cost would be exacerbated when the client paid off his mortgage. I mean, beyond the fact that, you've got your personal details all over here, which, is one thing in itself. I mean, it is saying there that it's commercially unviable, and surely NatWest, as a business, has the right, if it believes that this is commercially unviable, to close an account. That is something banks have the right to do. If that was true, I repeat, the Coutts subject access.
Well, I'm telling you, the report is not independent. I'm telling you that the report is a complete and utter whitewash. I refer you.
That is a very.
And I published all of it.
That's a very serious accusation.
I'm sorry. I published all 38 pages of that Coutts subject access requests. I repeat, 3 times in there they say Mr Farage's accounts are commercially viable.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very serious accusation against a very reputable law firm that essentially they would be unable to act professionally and divorce their personal opinions from the way that they operated in a business and professional procedure.
Well, I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. We once thought NatWest was a professional administrator, and look how they've behaved. And the idea that Dame Alison made an honest mistake. Now, look, we all say things, particularly after a glass of wine, that we might regret. Dame Alison, at a dinner, told the BBC's business correspondent, Simon Jack, number one, that I was a customer of Coutts, and number two, that I had been debanked because I did not meet the financial criteria. Now, that, as the ICO in the last 24 hours have confirmed, that was a breach of two pieces of legislation. But here's why it wasn't an honest mistake. The next morning, Simon Jack, as a good journalist, called up Dame Alison to say, look, what you said at dinner last night, can I go public with it? And she said yes. She said, yes, please tell the world, I'm happy for people to know, ultimately, that I breached Mr Farage's confidentiality. That is not an honest mistake by any measure.
Yeah, I mean, she did resign over that. What else would you have her do?
Well, she resigned when she was found out. She resigned when she was found out lying. She resigned when she realised that the Information Commissioner's Office and at some point now we hear today, the FCA were coming after her. She's broken every rule. She's broken every basic rule of anybody that is qualified to work in financial services. If you were a junior clerk in a NatWest's bank in a small provincial town and you broke client confidentiality, your fee, you literally would be out the door within seconds, and everybody knows that.
And now we've got the tricky conundrum about whether the board, the NatWest's board, will cancel the bonuses and share awards that are owed to Alison Rose. I mean, I barely need to ask you what your thoughts are on that, but the decision's complicated by this review's outcomes. She could mount a legal challenge.
Well, the review's done. It's over. What really matters is the Information Commissioner's Office, in their letter to me, said that after the review, they would consider whether they take action, that the FCA today have said themselves that they will launch a review. This so-called independent review was really an attempt by Sir Howard Davis to kick this issue into the long grass. It hasn't worked. And as far as the money's concerned, I mean, look, I'm all for people being successful and making money. But remember, nearly 40% of this bank is owned by us. Our money was invested in NatWest at £5 a share. It's now languishing at about £1.80. And frankly, she should not walk away with £11.3 million when she's in charge of a bank that is not succeeding. There's no prospect of us getting our money back as taxpayers, and she's broken all the rules. It would be an outrage if she walked away with that money.
You're a former politician. You sound like a man with a campaign in this. Again, there are rumours about what might happen after the next general election within certainly the Conservative Party. I don't know if you're eyeing up a return to politics anytime soon.
Well, look, I mean, politics aside, the reason I went public on this wasn't for myself, although it was scary. I mean, to be turned down by 10 other banks was scary. I was worried as to what I was going to do. The reason I went public is the sheer number of people who have been debanked, some for their political opinions, most because under money laundering regulations, the banks say, oh, this is just too difficult to monitor these accounts. 1 million people have had their bank accounts closed over the course of the last 5 years. They didn't have a voice. And when I, this summer, effectively came out and said I've been debanked, a lot of other people have. And we now need wholesale reform of the banking sector in this country. And I'm not going to rest until we get it. And that is the campaign that I'm focused on.
All right, so certainly, Amanda, interesting. I can't draw you out on any suggestion of what might happen to you and the Conservatives. Let's talk about another Conservative, well, former Prime Minister, in fact, Boris Johnson, joining your channel, GB News. What do you make of that?
I know. Well, Boris, of course, is always highly entertaining, whether he's writing or whether he's speaking. And he sometimes loses concentration, but that makes it even funnier. I think he will be a joyful addition to the GB News team. I'm told he's going to do documentaries. I'm told he's going to travel around the country. Look, I think it's a very good thing.
Well, we'll see you as a double act at some point. Nigel Farage.
You never know.
Thanks very much for joining us here on Sky News. Thank you.